Hello, everyone. I hope you are all well and enjoying today's sessions. I checked in on a few yesterday and it looked like y'all were having a lot of fun. So I'm just going to delve right in because I know the time is going to feel like it goes super fast. We're talking about lyrics as storytelling, and I want to share a couple of exercises I've discovered and work with my students when they're disconnecting to the lyrics that they're singing. I've found when students are struggling to memorize, or perhaps they've focused so much on the technique that there's missing a little bit of that zhuzh, that heart. Oftentimes it's because they haven't really understood the story they're singing. They're so focusing on vocal technique. They're so focusing on trying to get the words memorized without understanding them. So that's what we're going to delve into today. And I'm going to give you a couple of exercises that I hope you can modify and work with your students on. First of all, why sing? I always start with the mission. And I want you to think about that. My mission is there at the bottom. Just as the physician is called to heal the body, musicians are called to heal the soul. And I talk with my students about this a lot because I find when they have a mission, like their job is to reach somebody in the audience through their story, through their singing, through their talent. I find they're able to go a little braver when we start doing crazy things that are outside their comfort zone. You know, singers can be very safe in their voices. And the minute you start talking or acting, it's a scary thing. So remind them that what they're doing is a very brave act. If you haven't read the Carl Palniak, Why Music Matters, it's available on the internet. I suggest you read it. It helped me also shape my mission. So it's really great when you have to articulate the importance of music to parents and educators and administrators. So let's go ahead and flip the slide. I also want to remember, this is one thing I always talk about my singers to up their bravery. Vocal music is the most direct connection to your audience of all musical forms. And I'm a pianist. You know, every person in the audience is a singer. Remind them, whether they're trained or not, your audience, your listeners, their body is a singing instrument. And so when we sing, it is the most transparent, vulnerable, direct connection. So remind your singers, they're doing some really brave material. They're doing some brave art. Again, keep mastering this idea, or sorry, I say, now that we've established the why, I get so nervous, I'm gonna have to look at my slides. With your brave mission established, now that they have that why, let's start talking about text. Go ahead and flip the slide there. So remember, every song takes a listener on an emotional journey. Whether this is choral or solo, every song takes the listener on an emotional journey. The singer, the choir, they're the stand-in for the listener. The singer merges with the singers. They do this thing called effect, where the audience invests in your singers with their full mental and emotional energy. Instead of like musical theater, where we oftentimes use a mask of a character, your singers are actually the character themselves, which again makes it very personal. So what we're looking for is we question these objectives and obstacles. Two words I want you to remember: objective, obstacle. You'll find that this will open up a lot of conversations and singers will connect to their own personal stories, even though the lyrics themselves or a character themselves may seem very far away from who they are. Let's go ahead and flip the slide. So, objective, obstacle. I know I can't hear you, but everybody say objective, obstacle. If you walk away from anything, these are the two key words. Go ahead. The singer, the text always has an objective. What is an objective? It is an I want. Always ask yourself when you're reading a text, what does the singer want? What does the storyteller want? What is the want of the song? Now, for good drama, they're always met with an obstacle, an opposing force. What is that obstacle? Ask the question, what is blocking or stopping the singer, the narrator, the storyteller from achieving their want? If you identify these two things, you're going to invest in the lyrics. No matter the objective or the obstacle that may seem specific to the song, chances are the students will find a universal connection to that story. So let's keep going. So I'm going to start with a very clear example of objective obstacle. Don't Rain on My Parade from Funny Girl is a very well-known piece. I'm assuming many of you may know it. If you don't, that's okay. In fact, if you don't know it, as we go through these exercises, hold on one second before we go to the next lyrics. I want you to just check in with yourself. Trust your instincts as we go through this. If as a word comes up, don't think about, oh, funny, Barbara Streisand's interpretation of this. Look right at the text and check your instinct for what you think, what you feel right at that moment is the objective and the obstacle. So here we go. I often will start by having my students say the text. Go ahead, start with your musical theater majors. Those that are a little bit brave, let them break down the wall and have the students start to recite the text and then ask them to identify objective obstacle. So right here with the first line, don't tell me not to live, just sit and putter. I want you to think right now, what is the objective here? Because it's there. And what is the obstacle? Can you identify what these words are saying? What does this singer want? What do the lyrics reveal about the want? And what do the lyrics reveal about the obstacle? Let's go to the next. Life's candy and the sun's a ball of butter. That's the perspective of the narrator, of the singer. So don't tell me, somebody's telling them something, not to live. And then the singer believes the world is full of candy and the sun's a ball of butter. It's joyous, right? Go ahead to the next. Don't bring around the cloud to rain. Let me try that again. Don't bring around a cloud to rain on my parade. So can you identify the objective? Can you identify an obstacle at this moment? There's lots. This is not black and white. It's not one. There's multiple layers here. Go ahead and flip through the slide a little bit more. Hey, we learned a little bit more. Don't tell me not to fly. I've simply got to. Well, there's the want. I've got to fly. What does that mean? If someone takes a spill, it's me and not you. This is a person wanting to take a risk who told you you're allowed to rain on my parade. So let's go through objective obstacle. Go ahead. What's the objective? I bet you all have your own objectives. Here's what I thought. Go ahead. To live. What does that mean? To live. What is this character? This character wants to live from the first line. Keep going. To live with joy and beauty. Hey, candy, butter. That's good stuff. To take a risk on a dream. I've simply got to. I've got to. I'm going to take a spill. And it's me that's really responsible for that. I want to chase a dream. That's the objective. That's what I find to be the objective. What's the obstacle? Naysayers. Go ahead. How many people? I can't think of one human who hasn't met a naysayer in your life. Hands up. Hands up. I'm sure I can't see you all, but I'm sure we're all like, we've all had naysayers. Don't go into music. You can't. Don't be it. Yeah. Go ahead to the next one. Start the conversation with your students about dreams and naysayers. I bet you they've all had that. Go ahead. And honestly, I share my experience all the time with my students. I become very, very open. If I'm asking them to be vulnerable and open, I'm going to be vulnerable and open. And then the singers will oftentimes share their experiences with each other about, hey, I encountered this problem. I encountered this naysayer. This is my dream. And actually, it really bonds the students together. It really bonds when they start to share with each other. So that's the beginning. That's kind of how I go through objective obstacle. Let's go to the next page. Just when you think about your musical theater singing songs, I wanted to give you this information. You'll have this available in the slide. Musical theater songs are kind of easy in that there's a character. In the beginning, they're presented with the objective and the obstacle. And each time each verse, each bridge, they're pushing forward to get their want, and there's generally a counteraction, an obstacle pushing. And these characters are constantly trying to figure out how to get around that obstacle. Eventually, to the end of a musical theater song, they have learned something about themselves and they have a new action plan. So they may have learned something about their objective. They may have achieved it. They may have not, but they have moved into a new understanding. That's generally a musical theater structure. So I just wanted you to have that. Go ahead, flip. Here's a quick exercise. If you're struggling with your students or you want to go deeper, and I wish we could do this in the room together. Get two of your theater students or two of your more vocal students, people who are a little bit brave, to do a constant obstacle. So I want you to check in with yourselves right now. I'm going to try to act two parts here. I'm going to read the text, and then I would have a student improvise, continuing to be a naysayer, and see if that first student can start to push through the obstacle. Okay, start to fight for their objective. So your student would say, I'm going to live and live now. Go ahead. Oh, I did it wrong. I did my slide wrong. Okay, just go right through it. I'm going to live and live now. Here we go. I should have done it wrong. I did it wrong. I would have gone, I'm going to live and live now. You're not. Get what I want. I know how. Go ahead and keep flipping. Let's just put the whole slide up there. No, you're not. Get what you want. I know how. No, you don't know how. One roll, the whole shebang. That's not safe. That's not smart. And you can start to see how if you constantly put two students kind of fighting it back and forth, and I hate to use the word fight, sorry, objective and obstacling, you can see this pushback, and you'll see your students start to get invested in the drama. And then they realize they can take that into their song. So when you sing, I'm gonna live and live now, they can think, no, get what I want, I know how. One roll for it. They can up their ante because they can feel the obstacle coming at them. If you go through this exercise, they can build that mental obstacle. So sorry, I couldn't play this all out for you with two people perfectly, but let's keep going. I hope if this makes some sense, and if not, I'll be happy to answer some questions. At the end, no, nobody is going to rain on my parade. At the end of that song, this is the new statement. This is what the character has learned. They are stronger, they are clear about going after their dreams, and they've learned courage. All of these are things you could talk with your students about. Go ahead, let's go to the next. So I wanted to jump through. We're going to run out of time, or this goes very fast. I hope I'm not talking too fast. Let me know if I need to slow down. Breathe in the heights. I'm not so sure how many of you would know breathe. So I just wanted to take you through a couple more quick touches of objective obstacle in a couple more musical theater songs, and then show you how to apply it to non-musical theater songs. So breathe. Let's go through these lyrics. Let's just start. We're going to look for the objective and the obstacle. So this is my street. I smile at the faces I've known all my life. They regard me with pride. So we're setting up the world of the song here. This is a street. I smile at the faces I know all my life. This is a world that this singer knows, is comfortable with. They regard me with pride, and everyone's sweet. They say you're going places. So this is a singer who is known. Go ahead to the next one. So how can I say? So now we start to get the obstacle coming up. So how can I say, while I was away, I had so much to hide? So now we're starting to get the obstacle. There's some fear here. There's some anxiety. There's some fear here. Hey guys, it's me. The biggest disappointment you know. We still don't know, I think, what the objective is, but we're seeing the obstacle. The kid couldn't hack it. She's back and she's walking real slow. Go ahead. Welcome home. Just breathe. There's the objective right there. So let's go to the objective obstacle. What is the objective? the need to find calm before having a scary, difficult conversation. Go ahead. What is the obstacle? Expectations. Expectations from the family, the burden of that. Keep going. The community, feelings of failure, the head spin. She's spinning out of, the character's spinning. How can I say? I don't know. Hey guys, it's me. Oh, the negative self-talk, right? She's hiding some truth. She's got something she feels is going to disappoint people, so she's keeping it close. She's not told it. She's hiding a truth, or what she thinks is a truth. Keep going. Anxiety. When you look at those obstacles, how many of our students have experienced this? Oops, go back. I just want to sit with that for a minute because I know every one of my students have come to me with these stories. And in singing Breathe, hey, just breathe. They can also learn how to kind of deal with these emotions, deal with these situations. Yes, this is specific to a character. It is from a musical, but what is the universality of what's being asked here? This character wants something very simple that I think all our students know. I think all of us know. So that's why I love this exercise and why I love bringing this to my students, because if they understand this, they'll bring themselves into that song. Let's go to the next one. Let's see how we're doing. I think we're doing good. One last musical theater song. And the reason I wanted to start with musical theater is I feel it's a little bit easier. Musical theater is programmed to be dramatic with obstacles and objectives. So back to Before from Ragtime. Let's go through this one. And as we go through, I just want you to keep asking yourself, hey, can you identify the objective? Can you identify the obstacle? What do the objectives and obstacles mean to you? Okay, so let's go for the first one. There was a time our happiness seemed never ending. I was so sure that where we were headed was right. So once again, we're setting up a world here. And just by those two lines, seemed never ending, I was so sure that where we were headed, there's a past there. Life was a road, so certain and straight and unbending. So this character is clearly looking at what was behind. So we still don't know what she wants or the character wants, but we're looking at the world here. And there's another verse, and I decided to skip over it because it further shows this world, it further shows how beautiful the past was perceived. And then we get to where I feel the turn happens, where we finally see both the objective and the obstacle. Back in the days when I let you make all my choices. So right there, that's a character who is just kind of floated. Hasn't really taken a forward step. We can never go back to before. So before we flip to the objective obstacle, I just want you to take a second. Were you able to find or identify an objective and an obstacle in that? Sometimes it'll be easy. Sometimes we'll have to dig. Here's what I found for me in this piece. Let's go ahead. The objective of this character, freedom of thought. Keep going. Regaining one's voice or finding one's voice for the first time. Growth. Bravely moving through change. And again, change is a scary, scary thing. We don't like change. We don't. We're not programmed for it. Knowledge, independence of thought. This is a character, this is a story about someone who's really growing in profound ways they never imagined before. And what is the obstacle? The obstacle for me is wanting to grow, but loving someone who doesn't want to move with you. Go ahead to the next one. Just resistance from the people you love. And again, I think that that's very universal. as our students grow into high school, and then I teach a lot of college kids, they're learning to individuate for the first time and how to balance this idea of like, oh, I've got further light and knowledge, and that makes me want to think differently than the people that I honor from my past and the people that I love. How am I going to balance those two worlds? That's kind of scary. That's a tough place. But it's also part of our universal human condition. So I find in this song, you know, it can bring these conversations. It can help your students think about these issues, think about these things, and then bring that back to the song. Cool. So let's move forward. I think we're doing okay here. Just some things to think about. You know, I kind of tied up the overall messages over here with Funny Girl Breathe and Back to Before. And I'm probably repeating myself, but students will find themselves in these stories. And even if they're not the verbal ones, I know I said get your more talkative students up first. Great, let them break down that barrier. But don't forget that your nonverbal students, they're taking this in too. You don't know where that change is going to be, but the students will find themselves. For me, I present the ideas and let the conversation surprise me. As I said earlier, when I'm vulnerable with my students and I share, you know, stories of how these things mean something to me, they open up and share right back. And it surprises me. And I learn and grow as a teacher. It's what I love most about teaching. My students make me grow, right? Our students teach us as much as we teach them. Here's a little thing I use just to try to make it real for my students is, hey, play the movie in your head. You know, when a connection is made between a lyric and something that means something from their stories that's universal that connects with this lyric and they have that aha moment, I'm like, okay, play that movie in your head. Grab that motion, grab that moment, put that in your head. And as you sing the song, play that movie. Remember that feeling. And I feel like that really starts opening it up, this idea of the depth of storytelling while they sing. So let's go to the next slide. Okay, what do we do about those non-theater songs? Does every song have an objective obstacle? Well, I can't say universally that they all do, but I try to find them because I think that, again, that connects me to the song. It makes me feel like we're presenting something that's emotional. So I'm going to choose a song that really doesn't look like it has an objective and obstacle. Let's go. Chestnuts roasting on an open fire. Oh, you're all just cringing because I just killed that lyric, right? Chestnuts roasting on an open fire. Where's the conflict in that? Jack Frost nipping at your nose. I don't see a conflict. I don't know what we want. I don't know what the problem is. Yuletide carols being sung by a fire. Folks dressed up like Eskimos. Is anybody finding the objective obstacle? It looks like a list of lovely things. Let's go on. Here's the magic word, although, but, yet, maybe. Those little words all of a sudden bring those turns, and look for those words. Although it's been said many times, many ways. Has anybody got an idea? I wish we were in the conversation, folks. I'm so sorry. Anybody have some ideas? Although it's been said many times, many ways, what does this singer want to do? What is the at issue here? Many times, many ways, repetitive to the point of being boring so that we don't connect. Let's go ahead and throw those objectives and obstacles on the screen. Here's kind of what I think happens in this song. Go ahead. I think this song is to remind us of the joys of the season. Although it's been said many times, many ways. to be present in the small things, the chestnuts roasting on the open fire. First time you step out and it's like, oh, it's just got cold. I'm going to have to get my good coat out. You know, Yuletide carols. When was the last time you took the time during the holiday season to gather around a fire and sing? What's the obstacle? Go ahead. Small joys of Christmas can be overlooked, although it's been said many times. See, that's kind of negating the small things, or we lose them. Go ahead to the last one there. How many of us rush through our holidays with a big to-do list and have forgotten to take time? Although it's been said many times, many ways. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Remember that. Remember just those simple words. Be in the present. And then go back now and think about this song. Oh my gosh, chestnuts roasting on an open fire. I don't think I've roasted chestnuts on an open fire ever. Maybe when I was back in Utah. I think I'm going to get some chestnuts this year, even if I get them from the New York City vendor who roasts them for me. Just to be present during the season for those beautiful small moments. I hope that helped. Let's go to one more. The next slide. This I find to be a fascinating obstacle objective story with my students. How many times have we sung the national anthem? How many times have our students sung the national anthem and don't know what they're singing? They don't know what they're singing. At least my kids don't. So I love doing this exercise with them because the lights go on. It's fascinating to see them have such a depth of understanding of the national anthem. So here we go. Go ahead. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light? So what is the objective? Right there, there's a question. Can you see? The listener, or the singer, excuse me, clearly is asking a question. The singer needs to see something. We don't know what it is yet. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light? What's our obstacle? Dawn, which means we've been in the dark. You see what so proudly we hailed. I always have to clarify what hailed is. Another fancy word for see. What we see with respect. At the twilight's last blink, it was going dark. So, oh, this story all of a sudden is really rich. Here's somebody who's just, please, can you tell me, can you see this thing? It's dark, the dawn is happening. Can you see this thing we respect? Got it, Heather, thank you. It was there at the twilight. Can you see it? Next. Now we start to understand what they're asking to see. It's broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight. That word starts to really land with my students. Perilous. I generally have to what does perilous mean? Fight. There's a fight. There's a problem. That is an obstacle. Or the ramparts we watched. Castle walls, fortress walls, were so gallantly streaming.
Lisa,
let's go ahead. Yes,
real quick. Somebody, a great comment said that they discussed with their students last year how the entire first verse of the national anthem is one long question.
It is. Yes, they don't. I mean, how many people realize that? What's interesting, and I'll just jump right to it. When we get to the end, hint, hint, hint. The objective is not necessarily achieved. It is one long question. It is. Well done. Let's show these objectives and obstacles that I've discovered here. The objective. Can you see? Lead your students through. Can they figure out what we're asking to see? What is happening here? Go ahead. I always have to define this word, hailed, because we're dealing with a poetry from a vernacular that's older. And that's why I also love doing this exercise with them. It makes it real for them. Keep going. Can you see the American flag flying over the ramparts, over the fortress walls? And then we actually start having a historical conversation about what was really happening. Keep going. Obstacle, dawn, darkness, twilight. So we keep, there was something happening, we couldn't see it. And go ahead, fight. That's, that's pretty dramatic. That's a pretty dramatic obstacle. That's a fight. Let's go to the next slide, which is the rest of the national anthem. There we go. Continued. And so again, I have them speak through the text because when these words start to come out of their mouths, it also starts to hit home. And the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air. Now we all of a sudden get some really juicy, important words. By juicy, I mean there's a visual there. Rocket, glare, bombs. All of a sudden, this is just not a fist fight. We're just not wrestling in the mud. It's a war. It's a dangerous, dangerous obstacle. Keep going. Gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. So you can talk about in the moments of the flashes, the flag was still there, but the question is still being asked. Has the objective been achieved? Can you see it? Keep going. And they ask the question. Oh, say, does that Star-Spangled Banner yet wave? This is the first time where we really kind of get Star-Spangled Banner, where we get the flag. We get the stars and the stripes, but Star-Spangled Banner yet wave, or the land of the free, the brave. And I always get teary. I always do. Objective obstacles. The question is still there. And, the objective is this singer desperately wants this answer. And what is the answer they're seeking? What is the objective answer they're singing? Go ahead. Is America still standing? Is America still standing? Because, you can talk about historically how this flag was still flying and it was like, that is the symbol of like, are we okay? Are we still here? The obstacle, clearly I talked earlier about the rockets, the bombs, the war. And go ahead, the end of that slide. When I start to have these conversations with my students, go ahead. It just opens it up to them and they start to hear the national anthem in ways they've never heard it before. I'm really honored. I work in Queens, and so I also get to work with a lot of first-generation immigrants, and to take them through this exercise is so fascinating. They have such a deeper understanding and profound love for the national anthem. So that's all I kind of have for you today. So in conclusion, I just want to start by saying, there's no right or wrong answers here. Like the objectives and the obstacles is varied as human nature, Oh, do you have the last slide? That's okay. I'll just round it up here. Clearly the two words I want you to remember, objective, obstacle. If you can ask these questions of yourself, how you can connect to the text, and then you can take that to your students. All of a sudden, if it's not immediately clear, keep digging. Sometimes, like on these songs that are not inherently theatrical, it takes a little bit of digging. Ask additional questions. Why, when, where, how, and let this kind of unfold to you. What does the song mean to you? And then let me just round up by saying, when you find that personal connection and the universality of the story, you're going to lead your students through this. Remind your students, going back to the mission, going to round this back to the mission, that when they are connected to the music, whether they're singing solo or in a choir, this is the beauty and the magic and the mystery of music. if they can find that connection to the texts that they're singing and they marry that to that music and they sing it out there, their voice, their spirit, their magic will connect to somebody in that audience. It doesn't have to be perfect. They could be out of tune and challenged, but no matter what they do, if they come with a full heart, somebody in that audience needs to hear their voice, their version of the story, their perspective of that story. And that is how you build these beautiful, magical connections with your audience. That's what I have for today.
Thank you, Lisa. That was amazing. I really learned a lot, and judging by the comments, everybody has been very appreciative, and you've gotten a lot of good thoughts going. So thank you. Any questions for Lisa you'd like me to ask from the chat? A lot of people, thank you so much. Loved how you brought the songs to life. Realize that they're not singing for themselves, they're singing for the audience and carrying a message to them. And when a conductor explains a piece of music, how it makes it so much more interesting to sing.
They are singing for themselves too.
Yes.
Don't be afraid to, like, that's the beauty of it all, right? Like, it profoundly changes their lives. It profoundly changes people they don't ever know. And it changes our lives as musicians, as teachers. That's music, right?
Yes. Oh, so what age group do you think enjoys this the most?
Enjoys this kind of text?
Yes.
I'll say I don't know, in that I've taught a wide range of students. I've taught lots of middle school, high school. I'm in college right now. It means a lot to my college students. I have not done these exercises necessarily with elementary school, but that's because I haven't taught there for a long time. I'd be very fascinated to see how it would apply. But also I turn to you and I say, here's some tools. You know your students very, very well. You know what can work with them and what parts of this can be made relevant and important and enhance their learning from where they are. Okay. But I would say anytime I'm dealing with the junior high on up, I've had fascinating, again, that's the thing where the kids will surprise you. They'll say something and they will surprise you, and you will be able to really connect with them and teach them and change their lives.
So a question that just came up to is, how can we make connections that are not obvious from pieces that are not obvious or relatable? What kind of strategies do you use for that?
Practice. Honestly, I would practice. That's why I did the presentation the way I did it. Start with really obvious things. Like, ask those questions. Okay, I'm going to find one objective, one obstacle. Let me start with very obvious musical theater songs. Pop songs are interesting because pop songs will present an objective. They might present an obstacle, but at the end of the song, they're still in the same place. But I would start with that. And as you, oh, okay, I get it, then try to transfer it over. In the last slide, I said, ask additional questions. Okay, I'm not seeing clearly what the singer wants. Why, when, where, how, what? What is the singer saying? How are they saying it? I would look for hot words too. Look for hot words like rockets or street. This is my street. Breathe. And then always look for those disempowering or switching words like although, but, maybe, just, those words that kind of undercut whatever might have been presented. Although it's been said, that to me, that's where that song takes a turn. Up till that, it's just a list of beautiful Christmas, things. But although, that's the change. I hope that helps.
That sounds great. Another great question just came up. Have you ever had the meaning of a song change or evolve during the course of your teaching?
Always. Always. I remember that song always. Yes. Yes. Awesome. Oftentimes I'll bring my thoughts to the classroom. And then when I hear a student come back, I'll like, oh, I hadn't thought of it this way. Absolutely. that's growth. That's normal, but yes. And that's what's also so beautiful about the idea that most of these songs have very specifics in them. They'll have specific words, but the truth is a good song has universal messages, but are told from a very specific point of view that only the way the listener or the singer, excuse me, can tell that story. But that's why this objective obstacle also helps us go, okay, I may not have had this moment of being on the street and breathing, but I've had that moment of feeling anxious because I kept something hidden and I need to calm myself down. So, breathe, as breathe goes on, there's some Spanish that's sung in there. And, I don't speak Spanish. So again, that's the way it's coming from that character, from that one story, but it has universal connection. So that will always evolve.
Well, I think that's a great place to stop. Although this has been fascinating, like I said, and everybody has been very appreciative. So thank you again, Lisa.
Oh, thank you.